So lastly, wanted to talk about our, the backbone for our metric system and how we measure performance in our operation. We call it QCDSM. I've sat in a lot of presentations this week where people have talked about QC, D, and S, but haven't seen where anybody is talking about M. And we want to talk, Steph talked about M this morning with our Quick and Easy Kaizen program, but we measure morale every day in the plant. Every day, every line, every shift, we talk about morale. And QCDSM is not just our metric and performance measurement system, it's also our communication system. Within the QCDSM process, if I'm a line worker, every morning at the beginning of my shift, I'm going to have a 12-minute meeting with my team. And this meeting is led by possibly me. It's not led by the supervisor. We're going to talk about our performance yesterday on QCDSM. We're also going to talk about anything else that's going on. Hey, we have a pilot run today, or we got a part shortage, or whatever it might be, or we got a tour coming through today. It's 12 minutes long. The role of one of the people in the meeting is to keep time, to make sure we don't go over our 12 minutes. And we do all this in an area where all of their metrics are posted on a 6-sided rotating column. And so they've got QCDSM, and side 6 is news. So we can hang company news or whatever, and they hold their meeting there every day. These are not printed out of Excel or whatever. We're using magic markers and bingo doppers to make our charts. They're not fancy. So QCDSM is also our communication tool. It's also what we focus on when we do our weekly management Gemba walk. So at our one factory, 9:30 every Wednesday morning, in fact, we're probably supposed to be there in about 5 minutes, Steph. We have our Gemba walk at our sleep therapy factory, and then at 3:30 in the afternoon, we have our Gemba walk at the Murraysville factory. And we go around to all the various QCDSM areas, and the manager who's responsible for those areas has to present their green and their red and what problems they're having. So what do we measure in QCDSM? For quality, we measure assembly and process errors in the plant. For cost, we measure workforce and process efficiency. Delivery, we measure how we're doing on customer back orders. Safety is the classic incident and severity rate, but we measure all incidents, not just reportables. So even if it's not reportable, it could have been, and it might be considered a near miss, so we're measuring those. And for morale, as Steph said, we're measuring the number of Quick and Easy Kaizens and our participation rate. This also is the backbone of our quarterly gain sharing program. So our quarterly profit sharing program for our associates in the plant, they're the only ones that participate. Management does not participate in this bonus program. Otherwise, we might be able to gerrymander the numbers so that we could get a payout. These are the 5 things, all equally weighted, 20% each. So if we perform good on these, their pocket's going to get full of money. So this is an incentive for them. So we do daily reviews with the whole team like I talked about. There's also a daily review with the local management team, or what we call our L3 meeting. And then the weekly Gemba walks, as we discussed. It also feeds into team-based problem solving. So if we're having a problem in one of the areas, if it's red, 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 okay, that's long enough. We need to do something about it. We'll tap into one of these tools, a 5Y or 5S, fishbone diagram, whatever it might be. If the problem looks too big for these grassroots types of tools, then perhaps we'll pull out 6 Sigma. We'll pull out 5, or we'll pull out an 8D, or we'll pull out Kepner-Trigo, the big problem-solving tools. But almost all of our problems are solved at the grassroots level. We do some 6 Sigma projects. Steph's got a couple that she's tracking right now, but it's not our primary tool of choice. So here's some of our results for the last 2 years since we've really heavily focused on QCDSM. We reduced our assembly errors by 40% or more in the last couple of years, year over year. These are year over year numbers. Our labor efficiency improved by 26% in 2008. The reason 2009 is such a low number is we are in the process and started in about mid-2009 of consolidating 5 other Philips manufacturing plants into our Murraysville plant. So we've got a lot of new products, we're training a lot of people, and so we're a little slow at it on some of those new lines because we're taking our time. Customer back orders in 2008 we reduced by 46%, in 2009 we reduced by 24%. I told you we have about 6,000 or 7,000 shippable SKUs. Our target number is to have no more than 17 of those in back order every day. So it's a tight target, and we're continuing to improve on that. We've had a reduction in reportable injuries between 35% and 40% over the last couple of years. And we've seen our QEK participation go up by 50%, 52%, and then 45% again in 2009. And if we keep on track with where we were at in the first quarter, we're probably going to show another 40 or 45% number in 2010. So the program is working. Our folks are getting hundreds of dollars a quarter in bonus over this. We're saving a lot of money. We just can't tell you how much because we don't measure it. And that's one of the things that IndustryWeek, quite candidly, struggled with us on. Couldn't believe that we don't measure how much we save. The second round questions and the third round questions and the tour at our facility last year when Steve came to visit us, it was a touch point with them. But we got through it because we know if we're doing this, we're saving money. These are some other opportunities for engagement. We're now in the process of making a lot of our folks tour guides. We get them involved in new product introduction activities designed for manufacturability studies. Party committees give presentations at our all-employee meetings every month. They're newsletter authors and so on. And the last one's my favorite. They help us deal with the grouches. When you have an engaged workforce, they're going to out the people that aren't playing the game properly. And they're going to tell you about the fact that somebody's being a grouch and you need to address it. When you don't have an engaged workforce, they don't care. And in fact, they may become one of those grouches. So there was a guy who worked at General Electric. This is a true story. Jason told me this story. He was a 35 or 40-year employee at General Electric. It was his retirement party. Every boss he ever worked for was there. The president of the division for GE Locomotive was there, everything. And they were all talking about how wonderful this guy was and how much we're going to miss him, so on and so forth. Now it's his turn to stand up. Thank you, everybody, for saying all the good words. Can't believe everybody's here, so on. I'm going to miss you guys, so on, so on. But there's one thing I will never forgive you for in all of my 35 years here at GE Locomotive. You never asked me my opinion. In essence, they were asking him to check his brain at the door every day. They didn't care what he thought. They wanted him to do it their way. Don't allow your employees to check their brains at the door. It's not helpful. So you can improve morale. You can have a feeling of purpose. You can create passion. You can decrease turnover. You can have less whining and more ideas and solutions, or for the engineers in the room, more signal, less noise going on in the organization. You can have a lot better results, and you can solve problems at the lowest levels. And guess what? You're going to find some diamonds in the rough that you never knew existed. People that were just part of the woodwork, part of the landscape, that are just going to be wonderful. And I'll tell you what, it's also a lot more fun this way. It's really a lot more fun. So in summary, you've got to change your style if you want to make this happen, because you've got to get out of their way. You can't continue to solve people's problems for them. You can't continue to shoulder the burden of everything that is busting their morale every day. You've got to teach them how to fish for themselves, and then they can feed themselves. Solve the small problems, and a lot of them. Because if you're not solving small problems, eventually what's going to happen is you will die a death of 1,000 cuts. Because all those little problems add up. It's not about implementing SAP. It's not about doing all the big stuff, putting a new building in. It's about solving the small problems. And when you push people's emotions to enthusiasm, the outcomes are just incredible. And that's what you've got to do. They want to help. Don't let them check their brains at the door. Measure morale. Figure out what you need to do to make sure your employees are happy at work. And really, in the end, what's the risk of asking people to help? What's the risk? You probably shoulder more of the burden of risk than they do, and it's emotional risk. Get over it. Get out there and ask your people to help you out. Empower them, enable them, and engage them. So we'll end with a couple of quotes. It's surprising what remarkable results responsible people can produce when you just get out of their way. It's true. We've proved it over the last couple of years, and it's not easy. It's so, especially if you're an engineer in management, God, you just want to solve some problems for people. You want to do it. Get out of their way. When complaining becomes a crime, hope becomes despair. The reason I use this quote is because every complaint is an opportunity. And if you aren't listening to the complaints, if you aren't taking them seriously, people are going to stop talking to you. And that will be the worst thing that will happen to you. And that was Abe Lincoln. And lastly, here's my challenge. You don't get anywhere by standing on the sidelines waiting for somebody else to take action. Whether it's building a better widget or building a better future for our children, we all have a role to play. That's the challenge. It's a call to action for people who, like me, believe in people. It's not too late, but it may be getting pretty close. Enable, empower, and engage your teams, and the future could be really bright if you do. So I thank you for your time today, and we'll take any questions that you have.